Welcome to Think Outside the Box, a deep dive.
We all know that annoying people give us headaches, right? I mean, that's just a fact of life.
Oh, absolutely. A universal truth.
Yeah. But what if dealing with a difficult coworker or, a highly critical family member is actually literally speeding up the aging clock inside your DNA?
That is the big question.
Yeah.
It sounds wild, but science is actually backing it up.
It really is. So, welcome to Think Outside the Box, a deep dive. And right up front, I want to clearly state that this particular deep dive is a proud part of the Teacher Victoria ESL class.
That's welcome, everyone.
We are so glad you're here. And hey, please drop Teacher Victoria a message about this class. Let her know your thoughts on what we're discussing today because we'd love to hear from you.
It's a great way to practice the concepts we're about to cover.
Exactly. So our mission today is to explore the literal physical cost of dealing with difficult people. And we're doing this by looking at a really fascinating recent study.
Right. It was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, which is, a very major scientific journal.
Huge. And we're also going to throw in some reflective discussion questions about how we all navigate social friction in our own lives.
Because it affects literally everyone.
It does. But before we get into the weeds, I want to make a quick vocabulary focus note. Since this is for the Teacher Victoria ESL class, we're going to make sure to keep the vocabulary clear, simple, and easy to understand.
Definitely. No getting lost in overly dense medical jargon today.
Right. We will absolutely explain any big scientific words along the way so no one gets left behind.
Perfect. So, returning to that hook, the idea that annoying people are actually making us age faster. To understand how that works, we really have to look at how scientists measure aging in the first place.
Right, because they aren't just counting the gray hairs on your head.
No, not quite. They went much, much deeper than that. The researchers looked at a massive group of people, around 2,300 individuals.
Wow, that's a huge sample size.
It really is. And they ranged in age from 18 all the way up to 100 years old. And all of these people gave DNA samples.
So they're looking right into the cells.
Exactly. They were looking at something called epigenetics. And for our ESL listeners, epigenetics just refers to how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work.
Okay, let's unpack this because I think I have a good way to picture this. Think of your body like a car.
Oh, I like that. Go on.
So the chronological age, which is a big term, but it just means your age in years, that is simply the year the car was built.
Right, like a 2015 model. It is what it is.
Exactly. But the biological age, that is how much wear and tear is actually on the engine.
Yeah, how hard it's been driven over the years.
Right, did you change the oil? Did you drive it through terrible storms? A 10-year-old car can look brand new, or it can be completely falling apart.
That is a perfect analogy. And so the scientists were looking at the DNA to check the wear and tear on the cellular engine, basically.
And then they compared that engine wear to the people in their lives.
Yes. They had everyone take these extensive surveys about their social networks, basically asking, who are the difficult people in your life? Who are the people who constantly create problems or stress you out? They call them hasslers.
Hasslers. I love that term. It's so descriptive. So what did they find when they put the DNA data and the Hassler data together?
Well, what's fascinating here is the mathematical precision of the results. For every single hassler a person had in their life, there was a 1.5% increase in their biological aging.
Wait, really? 1.5% for every single difficult person?
For every single one. It stacks.
Oh my gosh. So if you have, say, 3 really difficult people that you deal with constantly, you're aging 4.5% faster.
Exactly. It is a compounding physical penalty on your body.
That is wild. But hold on, let me push back on this just a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
Couldn't that just be because of other stressful things? If you have a terrible boss making you miserable, you might have a really tough job in general. Or maybe you cope by smoking, or eating bad food, or you've had past bad experiences.
That is the exact right question to ask. And it's exactly what the scientists thought of, too.
Oh, they did.
They did. So they used statistical models to essentially remove all of those factors from the equation. They accounted for tough jobs, smoking habits, poverty, negative past experiences, all of it.
And even after removing all that bad stuff, the difficult people still cause the aging.
Yes. Even with those removed from the equation, the Hassler effect completely remained. The social stress was its own distinct burden.
Wow.
And they were also linked to higher rates of mental health issues and even higher body weight.
So it's not just in your head, it's literally changing your metabolism and your cells.
It's systemic, yeah. Your body is staying in this constant low-grade fight or flight mode. It's pumping out cortisol, the stress hormone, and that chronic inflammation just damages the cells.
Okay, so if these difficult people are literally aging us, I mean, the obvious solution seems to be simply avoiding them, right? Just walk away, block their number.
You'd think so. But the study reveals why that is usually, unfortunately, impossible.
Oh, because they aren't just random people at the grocery store?
Exactly.
Yeah.
When you look deeply into the source data, the hasslers are rarely strangers. They're usually people we have very limited choices about, people we feel a strong sense of obligation toward.
Right. So we're talking about coworkers,
Roommates.
and parents, adult children, siblings, other family members.
Yeah, you can't just casually evict your mother-in-law from your life. Or fire the guy who sits at the desk next to yours.
You're stuck. And that feeling of being trapped actually makes the physical stress worse. The anticipation of having to see them again tomorrow keeps the cortisol flowing.
Which means your engine never gets a chance to cool down.
Right. The wear and tear just continues.
Man, that is heavy. And I actually want to turn to the listener directly for a second here, because this is something we all deal with. Oh, absolutely we do.
So to our listeners, I want you to reflect on your own life for a moment. Have you ever had someone in your life who constantly hassled you? How do you usually deal with people who stress you out or drain your energy?
It's a really good thing to think about. Just noticing how your body feels, like if your shoulders get tense, is step one.
Definitely. And hey, while we are pausing to reflect, this is actually the perfect time for a quick mid-deep dive reminder.
Oh, right at first.
I just want to remind everyone tuning in that you are listening to material for the Teacher Victoria ESL class. So make sure you are focusing on the clear vocabulary we're using today. Words like biological aging, epigenetics, and obligation.
Yeah, and take some notes for your class discussions later. It'll really help.
Absolutely. Okay, so getting back into it, we just established that family members and coworkers are often the primary hasslers because we can't escape them.
Yes, the proximity is the problem.
But
Yeah.
there was one massive, super surprising exception to this rule within the household.
There was, and it's a really beautiful finding, honestly.
Yes. So I eagerly want to point out that while spouses, husbands, and wives were frequently named as hasslers in the surveys,
Which is pretty normal for a marriage, let's be honest.
right, people bicker, but they did not have the same association with faster biological aging.
It's true. A difficult roommate ages your cells,
Yeah.
but a spouse who annoys you doesn't trigger that same penalty.
Why is that? What's the difference?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really shows the protective power of connection. A husband or wife might annoy you, they might leave their socks on the floor or argue about money, but that relationship is typically balanced with a deep foundation of support and care.
Right, like they drive you crazy, but they also bring you soup when you're sick.
Exactly. And biologically, that proves that positive connection acts as a literal shield against the negative effects of stress. Because you feel fundamentally safe with them, your brain releases oxytocin, which counters the stress hormones.
Wow. So the safety protects your cells.
It tells your nervous system, hey, we're annoyed right now, but we are not in danger. So the inflammation doesn't stick around to damage the DNA.
That is incredible. And, building on this idea of supportive connection, the source material had some great discussion prompts about friendships, too.
Yeah, because friends can act as that same kind of biological shield.
All right. So to the listener again, I want to ask, which of your friends or family do you find it easiest to be around? Like whose presence just makes you physically relax?
It's usually a very short list.
It is. And do you think friendships become more or less important as people get older? Because personally, I reflect on this a lot.
No.
I feel like our circles of friends change so much over the years.
Oh, they definitely do. We prune our social trees.
Yes. In your 20s, you might put up with a lot of drama, but as you get older, you really start to prioritize these supportive bonds. You just want peace.
And biologically, that is your body intuitively seeking out environments that won't age you. You are literally trying to protect your DNA by surrounding yourself with calmer people.
I love that. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. We understand the data, the aging mechanism, and the protective power of good relationships.
We have the whole picture now.
But now that we know all this, what are the actual takeaways for the listener's daily life? How do we use this?
Well, first, I do need to play the calm voice of reason for a second. We have to point out a crucial scientific limitation in the study.
Okay, lay it on us.
It only shows a link, what scientists call a correlation between hasslers and aging. It is not strict proof that the hasslers cause the aging.
Right. Correlation versus causation? Just because two things happen together doesn't mean one perfectly caused the other.
Exactly. Even with all the statistical controls they did, human biology is just incredibly complex. There could be hidden factors.
But even with that caveat, it's still actionable, right?
Oh, absolutely. The researchers were very clear on their conclusion. The results are incredibly strong. They're strong enough to suggest that actively reducing negative relationships can genuinely help people age more healthfully.
So, what does this all mean? It basically means being super mindful of who drains your energy.
Yes, taking an inventory of your social diet, so to speak.
Right. So I'll ask you, the listener, would you say you become more or less tolerant of other people's bad behavior over time?
Most people become less tolerant, which is a good thing for their health.
And when was the last time you made a new friend who brings you peace, who just makes you feel calm and supported? Because that is an investment in your physical health.
It's the best kind of self-care you can do.
It really is. Well, as we start to wrap things up, I want to give one final warm reminder that this deep dive is a proud part of the Teacher Victoria ESL class.
We really hope you enjoyed it and found the vocabulary helpful.
Yes. And we once again invite you to drop Teacher Victoria a message about this class. Let her know what new vocabulary you learned today.
And, before we go, I actually want to leave the listener with a final, lingering question to ponder.
Oh, I love these. Something not strictly in the study, but building on it.
Exactly. So if science shows that difficult people can accelerate our biological clock, could actively surrounding ourselves with joyful, easygoing friends actually work as the ultimate anti-aging medicine?
Oh, wow.
Right? Could a new best friend be the secret to literally turning back time?
That is such a powerful thought. Instead of buying expensive skin creams, just call a good friend.
It certainly couldn't hurt.
I absolutely love that. Well, thank you so much to everyone listening for joining us on this deep dive. Take care of yourselves, protect your energy, and we will see you next time.